Hello, everyone. We're live with another edition of GamerGate Interview. And today we have a man in green with us. Say hello.
Hello, I'm a man in green.
So let's just start with the first question, which is how did you get involved in GamerGate?
About 2 months prior to the Quinspiracy and the GamerGate incident in general, as well as the Gamers Are Dead articles, I was involved in a discussion involving Anita Sarkeesian and a few other highly important individuals that have seemed to have made their way into the GamerGate discussion, and death threats they had been receiving. At the time, people were trying to blame all gamers, and I was trying to stand up in defense of gamers and say, look, you shouldn't be blaming all the gamers in this when one person sent a random death threat. And then I started researching into a bunch of what the journalists had been doing and who they had been talking with and being involved with, and seeing some of the money trails. And essentially, I was looking into this about 2 months prior to the incident actually occurring.
All right. So what do you think of GamerGate in the present form?
In the current present form, there is a lot of infighting, and it's to be expected at this point. We've all been working together for nearly 9 months now, that there would be some infighting going on and some people just not getting along on certain attributes and certain things. Overall, though, our focus seems to have sharpened, at least from my perspective. I've seen a lot of people digging harder and working harder on things that are more about the ethics in games journalism than they have been for the last few months. There's less focus on e-celeb fights, SJW fights. There seems to just be a lot more focus. It just seems to be becoming more razor sharp as we go along. There are some people who are going to obviously disagree on that, but from what I've seen and worked within GamerGate, there is a lot more focus happening.
All right. And the future of GamerGate, how would you, what do you think it's going to become in the future?
I would say at this point that we are likely going to be a perpetual eye on gaming journalism and any form of journalism that speaks up against gamers and games in general in a light that is unfair or simply untrue. And that's an actual good thing. We're essentially taking over the job of games journalists who were supposed to be fighting for the gamer's voice and doing the job that they essentially have stopped doing. I don't know if GamerGate will always be known as GamerGate per se, but it will definitely be working on the same interests. We've awakened thousands upon thousands of people to the issues at hand, who will always keep an eye on things and always try to inform others about it. So essentially, we have become a watchdog group and will probably continue to be a watchdog group.
All right. So yeah, you think it's already become watchdog?
Yeah, I think essentially it is already a watchdog. Game journalism websites are getting their information from the GamerGate hashtag. Essentially, we're becoming the story. So we are the watchdog site. We are the group of people who get the information out there and other places report on it. Everybody is mentioning GamerGate at this point for one reason or another. We are the news story.
All right, and the last official question before we look to the chat is, what do you think GamerGate could improve upon, and what do you think it's doing right?
We need to stop focusing so much on disagreeing with each other and focusing more on the ethical concerns within gaming journalism. The idea is, while we're going to always have disagreements with one another, we need to still focus on the things that are most important in regards to this entire issue, which is the ethical concerns. The drama that happens on the weekends, we need to ignore. The shit that happens with a bunch of other things, we just need to ignore, and we just need to focus more on the ethical concerns. Now, granted, there's always a place for doing those other things, but overall, we need to focus on the ethical concerns. As for what it's doing right, well, there are a number of people working on building new journalism sites. There are a number of people working on creating the new standards to set in gaming journalism, and there are a number of people who are working on video games and creating the outlets that will be the future of gaming journalism overall.
All right. So yeah, we can just go to the chat. Yeah, I had quite a few questions.
Okay.
So, from Christopher Brown, he had some a few questions. Why do you make feminism a bigger threat than it actually is?
Feminism is a threat. Feminism isn't actually a threat. At its core, feminism is actually good. What people have done with feminism over time is make it worse than it actually is, and a lot of people view it in that perspective, including several people within the GamerGate groups I talk with. They view feminism as something that has become evil and twisted, but at its core, it isn't. It's the hardline feminists, the one who believe that everything that I don't like is evil and thus it should be destroyed, is the ones you need to worry about. And saying that they aren't a threat is demonstrably false when you can essentially accuse a man of rape without having any evidence, and then get a slap on the wrist for having ruined a man's life for it. Those are problems, but that doesn't make feminism inherently evil. It never has, and it never will. It is a good thing. It is a good basis. It is good at its core. It's not perfect, but nothing is.
All right. And this is we kind of touched on this, but it's from the same person. What do you hope to accomplish in the long term?
Essentially, creating new games journalism that hopefully will not be the subject of the same corruption and lies that have been being told by current games journalism. Essentially, we should be trying to focus on creating a new guard and let the old guard just kind of either adapt to being ethical in what they cover or end up being ignored by the gamers at large.
All right, and next is, why is Manic Pixie Dream Girl your mascot? I don't even know who that is.
Pixie Dream Girl? Pixie Dream Girl.
I don't know if he's referring to David Ever or I don't know.
I have no idea who that is, in all honesty. If he's talking about the Color Cabal, we don't have an official mascot. If he's talking about Gamergate, I believe we have Vivian James as our official mascot, so I don't know who is being referred to in this.
Yeah, me neither. So let's skip. Do you think you and your enemies have anything in common?
Which enemies? A-Team?
No, anti-GG, I think he's referring.
Oh, anti-GG. Anti-Gamergate, we have a few things in common overall. I do believe that some within anti-Gamergate have similar methods and ideologies to some extent, simply because most of us are in fact left-wingers. So it would be impossible for us to not share some common ground on things. What they've come to believe, however, is that since they think we're a misogynist, terrorist hate group, that they can't see the similarities that we would otherwise have. And there's nothing we can really do about that. I mean, that's just how it's going to be. Really, it's been kind of disgusting to go through all of this, because there are a lot of things with anti-Gamergate that I can agree on, but not the methods in which they are trying to get rid of it.
All right. Would you buy a bad game just because it's hated by SGWs?
No thanks, I'm gonna make cereal. Do you want something from 7-Eleven?
Yeah, sure. Milk? Oh, no, not milk.
1 second.
I can speak for myself and say no. I would not buy a bad game just because it's hated by the SGWs. I would say it's that the if I would defend its right to exist, but I wouldn't buy it just because SGWs, feminists, or people I don't like buy it. So yeah.
For me at this point is, what can I determine is a bad game anymore? I cannot trust the current grade of games journalists to actually inform me on what is or is not a bad game at the moment. I'd like to say I could. I'd like to say that I could trust their word, but I'm going to have to trust the word of my friends and other fellow gamers who don't think that game is good. But eventually somebody is going to have to be the first person to buy it and determine, hey, that's a bad game or not. And that's where I think the new games journalists are going to be needed, is to determine whether the game is good or not. So would I buy a bad game just to test it out? Yes, as a future games journalist, I will in fact be buying bad games to test them out and inform the rest of the gamers out there if it is a good or bad game within a informed and sincere opinion about that particular game with as much objectivity as possible. But no, I would not buy it for personal entertainment, as it were, because, you know, it's a bad game.
Yeah. Another question, which is, do you think everyone who isn't part of your movement, it's not really a movement, I have to correct you there, Christopher, it's a consumer revolt. But anyway, do you think everyone who isn't a part of your movement isn't a true gamer?
Not everybody involved in Gamergate is a true gamer in the sense of a true gamer. There are admitted non-gamers within Gamergate who are strictly about being anti-censorship and being against the lies that are being told, which is okay, but you know, what does or does not define what a gamer is or is not is essentially up to the individual. I believe that a person has to identify themselves as a gamer to be a true gamer. And if you identify yourself as a gamer and you like video games, why not?
Yeah, but I also think he was referring to anti-GG.
Oh, everybody against Gamergate being a true gamer or not. I can't say one way or the other, actually. Some of them seem to be gamers, as it were, but the idea that they would try to deny somebody their artistic freedom does speak heavily against the freedom of being a gamer and enjoying what you want to enjoy.
Yeah, I would also say that a lot of people who just play games weren't even part of anti-GG or Gamergate, so.
Right. This is a small thing in the grand scheme of things as far as what people do or do not know about it. Most gamers don't have any awareness of it in general. There are, what, approximately 1 billion gamers out there, according to some studies. So, yeah, I would say that this is a fairly small thing, but it touches up on some very big issues involving the gaming community in the grand scheme of things.
Let me see. Are there anything more? What shade of green are you in from Xenomancer?
Xenomancer. I'm not sure what a Xenomancer is, but as for the Final Fantasy series, I associate green with the color of the summoning class, because green seems to be a very common color for that particular class. So I like to have fun with that type of thing.
All right. And next question is, who would pity the fool, or if A-Team were in an action movie? From Xenomancer as well.
Who would pity the fool? That for A-Team, who would pity the fool? Let's see. Oh, there is a person who is involved in the Color Cabal that I think would be a good fit for it, but I won't name the particular name of that person because they've asked to have their name remain private. But I do know who would be the person who would pity the fool, and he draws some great hentai.
And let's see. Christopher Brown again, sort of like how some members of the GG believe that they're political correctness Nazis. I don't know what he means by that.
Are you, is he talking about feminists?
Yeah, I think he's referring to one of the first question, which was, let me see. Yeah, do you think you and your enemies have anything in common, I think?
Well, the political correctness aspect is actually quite apparent. They are consistently trying to ban things that go against their political correct ideals. I don't agree with everything that GamerGate does, for example, in regards to some of the things that they don't like and how they approach it. But the idea of trying to remove things that you don't like from existence, or the possibility of existing, is very much a you've got to be politically correct or this thing doesn't get to exist type of issue. And it tends to happen quite regularly in regards to the particular individuals we deal with on a regular basis, and have been dealing with on a regular basis for the better portion of the last 5 years at minimum. Jack Thompson was a good example of how this was starting, but now it seems to be picking up speed within the gaming media itself, as saying, oh yeah, we got to get rid of this. Well, the answer to that question is, why should we have to get rid of it? Why should we ever have to say, hey, this cannot be there because somebody's offended by it? I've seen people make that argument for the Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, because it uses the word nigger within the book itself, and people are like, well, that's offensive and that shouldn't exist. Could you imagine how art would be if something that offends would be told to not exist anymore because somebody was offended by it? That isn't how we should be running society. We should let society decide what it does and does not want to see overall, unless it's something
like that recently happened in Sweden with, I don't know if you're familiar with Astrid Lindgren, but they recently censored Negro, and because the books are like 50 years old, if not older, and they censored that out of the books now.
And that's terrible, in my opinion, to do that. You should give people the option. I mean, if somebody wants it censored out, I would agree to them having the option to have that censored out from their particular book, but it shouldn't be from all books of that particular edition.
Let's see the next question. What's the Color Cabal from Callan Elliott?
The Color Cabal was a silly little idea of ours. We got together a few particular members of the Color Cabal and myself, and started talking about forming a group together to just kind of be a fun posting group back when we believed the A team was also a fun posting group instead of just a troll group. And we said, oh, hey, let's form this little group. And we started coming up with names. I can't remember the exact person who came up with the name. I remember his Twitter picture. It looks like a yellow face that looks kind of angry-ish. It's almost like a lemon-shaped face. It's a circle. I just can't recall what his name is. But he came up with the Color Cabal, and we just kind of stuck with it. And we've been there ever since.
All right. And what are your thoughts about Not Your Shield?
Not Your Shield is a great thing, in my opinion. It was something that was an example of just how diverse GamerGate is overall. And I'm great friends with a lot of people within the Not Your Shield tag, and people who are of different backgrounds. In fact, I work with a number of them through some of the websites we're working on developing. But yeah, Not Your Shield was a great thing when it first came about, and it was wonderful to see just what kind of people actually were there and how brave they were to put their faces and their names forward when, let's be honest, a lot of us are afraid to put our names and our faces forward for good reason.
Yeah, that was by SD Zamaran. Next question is from Xenomancer, more humorous question. How much would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could Chuck Norris?
If a woodchuck could Chuck Norris?
Yeah.
I would say that his fist underneath that beard would just punch the woodchuck out.
And the next question is from Axis Fiverr. Axis Fiverr. Why does it spell it twice? Anyways, should Gigi be making peace with Brianna Wu?
I am all for making peace with absolutely every single person in anti-Gamergate, so long as that is their want and not to try and manipulate us for their own ends. Any person who wants to make peace with Gamergate, I am fine with doing just that. I mean, I will have some grudges held against certain people within anti-Gamergate simply because of what they did to me personally. But that doesn't mean that I am against the idea of making peace among them.
All right. And let's see. God damn it. What was the question? What do you think of the feminist deck? I don't know what's...
As far as the feminist deck goes, I'm totally for it existing, but apparently it's being used as a donation type thing, which apparently goes against the rules of crowdfunding, at least for Kickstarter. I'm not sure how true or accurate that is, but I don't think it should be a donation pool. I think it should actually be a legitimate thing. Like for the feminist deck, I would have tried to have made a card game out of it and had a lot of fun with that, and designed it as a game that I could distribute to a lot of people. Do I think that it has a right to exist? Absolutely. But if it is being used to do donations towards people, as opposed to being used to actually kickstart an actual project, I think that's a problem, because Kickstarter shouldn't really be used to be a donation pool. It should be used to actually fund legitimate projects who are going to be used to make something for people to enjoy. That said, you know, I'm perfectly fine with it existing. I just don't like the person actively saying, oh, hey, it's going to be used for donations. Other than that, I just think they should have let that out and just made it a project of their own.
And from Axis Fiber again, what are your thoughts on Brianna and slash Hatman drama?
I like Hatman. I think he does a good job. I think he does a fair job. As for Brianna Wu, I find it ridiculous that she would suggest that in order for us to be taken seriously as an ethical movement, we have to listen to everything Hatman says is equally preposterous, because I don't agree with pretty much anyone entirely in Gamergate. I'm not about to change that for Hatman, even if I agree with a lot of things he does. In fact, I do think that the two Kotaku and Actions things should be separated, where there's one part for the social justice warrior drama and the other part for the ethics in games journalism, because it, quite frankly, is a jumbled mess. It's like trying to say I want to have a political discussion about left-wing politics, and then we start talking about right-wing politics. Although there is a place for both, they shouldn't be in the same discussion when the focus is supposed to be left-wing politics. However, Brianna Wu interjecting herself and saying, oh, if you want to be recognized as a legitimate ethical movement, shut up, Brianna Wu. Just shut up. I'm sorry, but you don't have a right to tell us what we can or cannot do to legitimize ourselves in any way, shape, or form when you've been calling us terrorists live on national TV. It just doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it, period. That said, I'm okay with Hatman associating with Brianna Wu, because he has every right to associate with whomever he wants to. But you know, her trying to tell us in order to be legitimized, we have to listen to everything one other person says, that's bullshit right there. And she's just doing it to capitalize herself, in my personal opinion, at this particular juncture. However, I am fully on board with Hatman's idea to separate the social justice warrior stuff with the ethics in games journalism, to keep them more moderated and keep them better focused. We need to have focus. And I'm sorry, but a lot of the stuff that people post, not only in the Twitter hashtag, but on Kotaku in Action, if this was any official message board with any form of moderation whatsoever, the post would be deleted or the person would be banned. That's just how it is. You're not on topic. When you're not on topic.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot of the time.
Yeah, when you're not on topic, that is what ends up happening. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a place to discuss it. I'm saying that the places you're discussing it in are not the places for it. But yeah, that's my view on it.
I saw here from the Xenomancer again. You think literally who's are irredeemable in light of their occasional proclivity towards speaking out in defense of those being attacked? Do you think they can be persuaded to be socially functional?
Do I think that the LWs in specific are redeemable was the question? Like, we're talking Brianna Wu.
Yeah.
So I'm being asked if they're redeemable, in my opinion. Yes, I do believe they are redeemable, and I do believe that as unreasonable as they seem, they do seem to have some sense of logic to them and some ability to sway their opinions in different ways. I'm not sure Gamergate is specifically going to be the thing that alters their opinion on certain things, but I believe that essentially anybody outside of being a murderer is redeemable in some way, and even murderers to some extent are redeemable as well. So, you know, there's nothing to suggest that the LWs specifically won't become better people over time and realize that it is good for everybody to have as much artistic freedom as possible. I was a person who helped greenlight Zoe Quinn's game. I am a person who helped greenlight Brianna Wu's game, and people can disagree with me all they want. People can be angry with me all they want about those particular things, but I intend on playing both those games. I can't play Brianna Wu's game yet because it's not out on Steam at the moment, but The idea is that I did it because I believe that those games have not only a right to exist, but I'm curious to see if they are something that's worthwhile. And quite frankly, as I said earlier, I cannot trust games journalists at the moment, so I need to find out for sure if Brianna Wu's Revolution 60 game is actually any good or not on my own, because I can't trust games journalists at the moment. That's just how it is. I believe they're redeemable. I believe that they will eventually recognize that artistic freedom is the way to go, and that trying to get people fired for their points of view is a step too far.
Well, there's something there's a question which I also think I have to address. It's from Christopher Brown again. There are two things you mentioned. Is it okay that if I find Not Your Shield as a hilarious example of irony, and continues with clears throat, hey, I'm tired of SJWs using me as a shield, so in complete deafness as to what irony is, I'm going to use myself as a shield to defend another group. I have to address this because Not Your Shield is not me speaking on behalf of any other or using them as a shield, because they can use them, they can speak for themselves, and the hashtag was created because GamerGate was labeled as white cis male hating women. You can address this as well.
Not Your Shield was not created to be a shield for Gamergate, nor are they being our shield, period. They're trying to say, hey, stop speaking up for them. If you want to say that they are our shield, you're wrong, period. And how dare you essentially, in this particular case, you're objectifying them. You're taking these individuals who use a hashtag called Not Your Shield, and you're saying, oh, they're just a shield. You're objectifying them. That's just how it is.
Yeah, just saying that it's ironic that, because anti-GG has been labeling GG as hateful, as a hate group, as misogynists, and that there are no women there. We are like 3,000 people or 300 people, I think it was, at one point. Gamers are dead and shit like that.
Yeah, the numbers are apparently anywhere from 30,000 to 1 million people that are involved in this. So 1 million people is a lot of people to be declaring a
that's for Twitter themselves. It's either a little bit under 1 million or more than 1 million.
Yeah, that's just a Twitter estimate is the thing. So
yeah. And here from SD Zamaran, any plans going to any Gamergate meetups in the future?
Yes, I am particularly right now I am an investigative reporter for one of the games journalist websites that have been born out of all this. So I actually do go to certain meetups to do investigative reporting for gaming related issues. That will include Gamergate related things, but is not limited to just Gamergate related things. You'll see my work in certain places, but you won't necessarily know that it is from a man in green.
And from Kellen Elliott, what do you think of the harassment? I think he's referring to, I don't know if he's referring to anti-GG or Gamergate.
The harassment on either side is absolutely terrible. The idea that harassment is being used as a leverage tool by either side on such a regular basis is actually kind of annoying to me. However, I don't believe Gamergate is intentionally using it to be a leverage against our opposition, just to point out that it happens as well, and we'd like to just focus on the topics at hand. Now, that said, I've been the target of some severe degrees of harassment myself.
Yeah, I can also say that I even said I'm a terrorist, and I'm handicapped and severely retarded. Just a few things to mention. I mean, I've been harassed as well, but I don't mention it in my stream, so because it's not worth mentioning.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, you know, it happens, and you know, it's not good, it's not fun, and nor is it fair, but it happens. And the best thing to do is not make yourself out to be this major victim all the time. The best thing to do is move on and do what you can and ignore it as much as you can. If it gets to an extreme level, by all means, report it to the police, report it to the FBI, do whatever you can to protect yourself. But, you know, making yourself out to be a victim doesn't help anyone, and it certainly doesn't help you in the grand scheme of things. You have to deal with it personally if it gets to a certain extent, and that sometimes requires going to law enforcement.
What do you think of the progressive stack? What do you think would be the combination of traits considered the most oppressed? I don't know.
What combination of traits would be the most oppressed?
Yeah, I don't know if it's towards the chat or us.
Huh. Well, let's see. What traits would be the most oppressed traits? I would imagine you would have to be transgender, disabled in some way, a person of color. You'd probably have to be left-handed. Let's see. You'd have to be gay. And probably an amputee.
Here is another one. Do you think GG should organize a I don't know if he's saying a GG meeting or anti-GG meeting because it's spaced together. Meetups to foster goodwill. Do you think any anti-GG would accept? Yeah, he's saying. Let me rephrase it. Do you think GG should organize anti-GG meetups to foster goodwill? Do you think any aggro would accept such an olive branch? I can just say that no, that's not gonna happen. I've tried so many times to get antis on that I don't think that's gonna happen. Personally, you can.
I would absolutely say that it should be done,
Yeah.
but I don't believe that it would be accepted. As you saw with the Ralph retort going to that particular convention panel with Brianna Wu, he just took her picture and she demanded he leave when, you know, there was no request of no pictures being taken. And going to conventions on a yearly basis for the last 18 years, I can tell you for sure that if persons did not want their picture taken, that would be put on the message just outside the door before entering. She did not request that pictures not be taken of her. She requested that after the fact. And if
moving the goalposts.
Yeah, if people want to believe otherwise, that's fine. They're wrong. I can tell you that from going to conventions every year for almost 18 years.
Which is a public event.
Yeah, so saying, oh, you can't take pictures here would be mentioned at the front of the door. It would be mentioned before the person even came on stage. I've been to showings of particular animes that are not even released for US consumption yet. So we're among the first people to see it. We're told we can't take pictures. We're told that we can't take video. And that's done before it's even shown. So what ended up happening there was actually completely against all convention norms. If people want to say that that was going to be said, no, it never was. That was said because the Ralph retort was there. That's all it amounted to. It was they were discriminating against him. That's it, period. And he didn't do it to be malicious. Let's face it, he didn't do it to be malicious. But you know, that was an opportunity for goodwill right there between those two particular people. That could have been a huge example that could have moved things forward as far as, you know, things becoming more peaceful between anti-Gamergate and Gamergate. And Brianna Wu herself blew that opportunity.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see if there are any more questions. Let's see. No, I don't think there's anything more. I'm gonna ask them again. Questions. We've gotten a lot of questions today, which is super awesome.
It seems that I've become something of a minor celebrity as far as things goes because of the issue with A-Team.
Let's see, anything? How much you weigh from Killtron 5000?
240 pounds.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else. I'm gonna give them 20 more seconds. If they don't give us anything, then we just close up and give our final statements.
Alrighty.
Let's see. Just gonna go through if I missed anything. No, it's pretty much just discussion going on in the chat now, which is kind of funny. Yeah, let's just close it down. So, anything you wanna shell or say before we close it?
No reason for me to shill. Just know that while a man in green is suspended, I am actually still among the Gamergate hashtag, and I am still watching things, and I'm still heavily involved within all the events surrounding Gamergate. So if anybody was worried that I was gone, no, I'm not.
Yeah, you're in my secret Skype cabal, so.
Hey, I've got the color cabal. That's even more super secret.
Yeah, I think no more questions. So yeah, I want to thank you for coming on. One of the longer interviews, which was nice because a lot of questions. So yeah, I want to thank everyone for watching and see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.
Take care.